Okay, so now, Brandon, you started this. Let's get in there. Let's get in there. You have they're using every procedural move available to them to bring about the result that they want. But we know President Trump and his team have already strategized how to basically pin this entirely on the Democrats if it doesn't pass, which in the past, Obama did this very well. He would shut down the national parks, and Americans would blame that on the Republicans who shut down government because they weren't able to get any cuts or any good things at all. I've seen some demonizing going on at the town halls. I watched some video this morning of an elected official in Maryland. He's a Democrat, saying that this bill cuts Medicaid and we need to do a better job of telling the American people just how horrible the Republicans' ideas are. That's not true. This bill does not touch Medicaid, but it does fund a lot of deportation priorities, lots and lots, billions of dollars in funding to refill those coffers. So if they have to vote for it, the messaging could be that the Democrats helped with the immigration problem.
Yeah, I suppose so. It puts them in a really uncomfortable place, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Most of what this bill does, it's a very bare bones bill. It's mostly a continuing resolution, not one of the funding bills that we actually want to see, where Congress actually does their job, rolls up their sleeves, gets into the nitty gritty of the federal budget, and say we're going to give this amount of money to this department, this amount of money to that agency, and so forth, and tells them how to run their operations. What this bill is, as a continuing resolution, is basically just extending last year's funding, 2024 levels of funding, into this year. And given that inflation has been what it continues to be, that's actually a little bit of a cut. It actually drives down spending a little bit, but it doesn't provide a lot of detail as to how agencies and departments are to carry out their everyday functions there. So Democrats are certainly going to make the case that this makes cuts to popular programs like Medicaid, but it's not true. It's just an extension of last year's funding. By the way, their guy, Biden, was in office last year, so it's kind of extending the funding there, but I think it does so, at slightly lower rates, and begins to trim away at wasteful spending like earmarks. So it's certainly worthy of support from conservatives.
Yeah, I mean, I heard it was a clean CR, so I started reading up on it, and I thought, okay, it actually does fund priorities that President Trump ran on, deportation. It also sends money back to DHS, and it trims a little bit. But the real work comes after. You just alluded to it. We were told when Leader McCarthy took the reins of the House during the Biden administration that there would be, clean bills presented, a single subject bill to run this agency and the next, as you've described, which is its regular budgetary order. Now we have a chance with the control of the House and the Senate in the hands of the GOP. They could actually bring forward these individual appropriation bills, and that gives them this whole spring and summer to formulate those before the end of the fiscal year. But do you think they're going to do it, Brandon? I mean, it's been a desert.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's been a long, long time since Congress actually passed all 12 of the appropriations bills. Again, because it's broken up across 12 bills, that in theory ought to give Congress the ability to go in to root out those wasteful programs, to root out all the fraud and abuse within the system. But they haven't. They've always skirted that responsibility. And then at the 11th hour, passed a bloated continuing resolution bill. This is not a bloated continuing resolution bill. It's unfortunate that we're doing this as a continuing resolution bill, a single legislative vehicle, rather than chopping it up. But you're right. Immediately after this thing is signed by President Trump, Congress ought to get back to regular order, and they need to start moving those bills on an individual basis. I'm hopeful. I've seen this movie a few too many times. I am hopeful that under the leadership of Speaker Johnson, Donald Trump, and Senate Majority Leader John Thune, that we'll actually see a change in the way Washington is run and start doing the people's business the way it ought to be done.
I agree. And I do have some hope, although I was one of the people tweeting and railing against McCarthy when he was saying he shouldn't have been removed, when he made all those promises about these single subject bills, because we have to get Americans used to this idea, right? The work that you do at National Taxpayers Union is to get Americans and legislators used to the way things used to work, which was there was a lot of fighting. But at the end of the day, we couldn't say, well, this bureaucracy is doing X, Y, and Z against the will of the American people, because they would have instructions. This is how this is appropriated. This line item goes to that. And so it was harder to have the fraud, waste, and abuse that DOJ is currently highlighting. So it really is important. I know Democrats think the Republicans are lying. I'm not sure why, if they never made an effort to do this work, they feel they have credibility to call anyone a liar. But the fact is, Americans won't be used to this until it's actually done. So we have to do it this year.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.